Hey everybody, welcome to a special episode of the John Morrison Podcast. I want to welcome you to my home studio here. Well, I want to share with you something that was asked of me recently, and it's an honor to be able to talk about something that I think is important, and that is the idea of communicating ideas in print, or commonly known as writing books. I've written 4, all of which I'm proud of and excited to share about, but I've learned a few things along the way, and some things I think I can share with others, and I'm happy to do that now. So if you're interested in writing at any point, I've spoken to lots of people about this, and I've found that a lot of people do have a book inside of them. They just haven't had somebody kind of lead them through the process of what it takes from the moment that you feel like something just has to come out, you have to write, to that moment where you actually get to open up the box and there's your book that you've written, and you're sharing ideas with people. So having done that 4 times, I have learned some things that I'd love to pass along with you. And I'm doing all this from the perspective of someone who's going to self-publish. I love self-publishing. I think it's a great opportunity for anybody to be able to put their ideas out there. In the old days, it used to be that there was just a few gatekeepers that kind of held the publishing world and held the ideas at bay, but with self-publishing, those gatekeepers are gone now, and anybody from the comfort of even their own couch at home can publish a book whose ideas actually reach across the world. But that's just my perspective. I know there's many different options when it comes to publishing a book, but for this video, I just want to share with you about self-publishing and how you can start from step 1 to step 25. So I got 25 steps, and if you follow those 25, you at the end of it will have a book with your title and your name on it, and its contents will be full of ideas that you want to communicate to the world. So it's really exciting, but it takes a lot of work. And so why don't we get started? Step 1 is you gotta have something to say. You gotta fill those pages with some kind of message. Sometimes it's a problem that you see in the world that you want to solve. And so what's the problem that you feel you need to solve? And one of the ways you're going to solve it is through communicating these ideas in a book. Maybe it's something you want to learn about that helps people. A lot of people will go into reading books because they want to be helped in some kind of way. They want to be sharpened in their thinking, or they want to learn a new thing from history, or hear an entertaining story. So what is it that you need to learn about, that you need to say? And so that's another way that many authors is they start with saying, I want to learn about this, and then they document it through the process, and at the end is what they've learned, but the whole journey is recorded in a book. So problem to solve, or something you want to learn about that you want to talk about, that's a good starting point, but very important to start off with. You want to have something to say because you need to fill all that space. Secondly, now you want to start getting some of those ideas that you have. Maybe you've had them since you were a teenager or something, to say, if I ever wrote a book, this is what I would say. So you want to make sure you get pen to paper now, or open up a Word doc or some sort of piece of software on your laptop and go get a cup of coffee. Make it an expensive one. Why not treat yourself? Because this is a great step. Step number 2 is one of my favorite steps. And that's where you just go off and you write down everything that you want to say. You just dream big and get it all down, because that's a fun moment, right? That's when you start to feel like, wow, I'm actually becoming an author. So you write it all down, and by the time the coffee buzz has gone, now you've got to realize, I've got to get these ideas, and I got to make sure I actually finish it off, because there's this great moment of euphoria where you feel great. Maybe you come home and hug your spouse or give them a kiss and say, you know what, we're going to do this. And everything that you do for the next 23 steps is going to have to be completed so that you can vindicate that moment, or else it was just some high. And you know what? Cocaine gives you a high as well. But you want to have not just an author's high, you want to actually have a boost of momentum that's going to push you into actually completing the project. And if you don't complete the project, then again, like that high was just in vain. Okay, number 3, this is when you start to research. And you want to find as many different points and read and read and read. And as you're scrolling through social media, as you're reading blogs on your topic, as you're reading through books, you want to make sure that you capture all of these ideas, because you want to have as much access to as many different ideas on your particular point as possible. One of the things that I found so helpful is Evernote. And Evernote actually allows you through your web browser to have this little elephant icon in the top right of your screen. And every time you see something that's relevant to your book, you can actually just click that button. It's called the Evernote Web Clipper, and then you can decide how much of that document that you've just read about you want to save, and then it saves it right into this folder. So I do recommend Evernote. It's helped me immensely through the writing process, and I'd recommend you, if you don't have an Evernote account, then open one up and start with a folder that's maybe the title of your book or the working title of your book. You don't have to have an actual title yet. That's going to come later, but you need to figure out how are you going to store all of these ideas that you're researching, and Evernote is the place I recommend. Step number 4 is an interesting one, because many people will say, now that I've done my research, I'm just going to start writing. And so they'll just start writing away and hope that they eventually fill enough that they feel like the book is done. That's not a great way to do it, because you could end up in so many different rabbit trails and saying stuff that you have no relevance to the major point that you started off wanting to say. I mean, it's interesting to think that you could just fill a canvas with words, but I don't think it's the most effective way to accomplish what it is that you sought to do, which is to communicate something rather than just go off on a long diatribe of personal opinions. All right, so don't just write. What I would recommend is, for step number 4, go into the stationery store and pick up a whole bunch of sticky pads and then clear a big table. Okay, so sticky pads and table. Step number 4, that should be pretty easy. It's not going to cost you all that much, and if you can find a clear space like a table, if you don't have a table, then find a floor, but it's not going to be as comfortable, so that's why I recommend a table. All right, number 5. Now you're going to start to think of the big rocks that are going to make up your book. Okay, so you've already kind of thrown everything out there in your Evernote account. You've been doing research, but now you got to have like 10 main ideas. These are also known as chapters. And so what do you think are the groupings of some of the stuff that you've been thinking about and researching about? Put those chapters, let's just say 10, because it's a nice even number. You say, these are 10 big things I want to say. So you write out the big idea and put it on a sticky note, and then put it at the top of the table in 10 different sticky notes, 10 different titles or chapters or thoughts that you might want. But those will probably be your big chapter ideas. And then number 6, you want to think of a main thesis to those chapters. Okay, so I mean, what would those chapters seek to say? If you could reduce it to just one sentence, what would it be? We know from writing when we were just kids, we know that we need a thesis statement for every assignment that we ever turn in. At least I hope you did that for your undergrad education or any other work that you did. You know you needed a thesis statement, and so chapters need thesis statements as well. In this chapter, I want to say this, and that will just give you clarity about when it's time to organize the rest of your points, to fill your sticky pads with more points. You want to make sure they fall in line underneath that one big idea. I want to say this. Okay, so now you have a chapter idea, and then you have a thesis statement, and now it's time to start filling it with all that stuff that you've collected over all these years or since you started doing your research. And so you write down from your Evernote account or whatever you've been doing to store, maybe it's a shoebox full of ideas, but you want to make sure you get them onto sticky notes. So write down just the main point or just a couple of points underneath that subpoint, and then just start putting it underneath where you think it should go. What chapter would this point go in? It's a good one, and so I want to make sure it's there. And this will also make you realize maybe this doesn't fit. This point that I researched that I thought was so important at one time doesn't really fit into the main thrust of what I want to say in any of the 10 chapters, and so you just crumple it up and throw it away. That's good. You want to be doing that because you need to be focused. You have so much, right? You've been collecting everything, but now it's time to get focused in everything that fits under your message, under your 10 different chapter titles, and it's got to be a point there or it's not worth people reading. So point number 7, you're actually building out your book. You're writing everything down, you're putting it under the categories, but now you're going to take time and start arranging them around in order that flows. So you want to make sure the logic of thought and argumentation, it all kind of flows together. And so under point number 7, you want to make sure it's an orderly chapter. It's not just throwing points all around things that you've collected, but it's actually well thought through. This point leads to this point, which leads to this point. Okay, now you're going to start thinking about intro and conclusion. These are so important. Number 8, put a story at the beginning of every chapter. Maybe it's a story from your own life. Maybe it's a historical story, something that interests people. Maybe it's some statistic Or it could even be a question that you're wrestling with or that you think your readers need to wrestle with. Put that at the very beginning, because that's going to hook people in. It's going to say, this chapter is worth reading because I'm interested in this personal story, I'm interested in this historical story, or I'm interested in what's going on in culture. So something clever, put it in the beginning. And now number 9, you want to put something that's equivalent to like a mic drop, right? Something that's powerful, something that goes boom at the end. So think through, what is it that you're going to end your chapter with, because you want to make sure you create a sense of anticipation that the next chapter is going to be just as good as how this last one finished. Because oftentimes some people will read to the end of a chapter, but if they don't feel like they're really enjoying it, they're going to end. So a chapter could mean the end of your book. So a bad chapter could actually mean the end of your book for when people read it, and you want to get them all the way till the end. So that's point number 9. Number 10, I want you to start writing out everything that you've got. So make sure you take maybe a picture of your table, so in case somebody wants to clean it up, they don't want to have sticky notes all over the table. That's understandable. So once you got a picture, now it's time to start remembering the logical flow from the introductory story to the points that are laid out to how you're going to transition them and how you're going to end with a boom kind of moment. Now it's time to do the writing. You wanted to be an author, now it's time to write. It's going to be so much easier that you did it this way, because you'll know that you just have to follow along with what you were thinking. So when you start to get discouraged, when you start to get tired, when you don't know what to say, you think, well, what did the next sticky note say? And then just write that all out. Keep doing this until you get till about 60,000 words. I think that's the goal. I get asked that every once in a while, and I myself have wondered what's an ideal length for a book to be. I think about 60,000 words. That's about a standard 200-page book in a 6x9 format. So shoot for that. I mean, there's no rules, of course. I mean, you own the material. So if you want to go longer, you can double that. You can even half it. But 60,000 is about where I shoot for, because that keeps people interested. So once you've accomplished that, you're probably way over 60,000, or maybe you're way under. But it's time to start doing some reading over. See, no great books have ever been written the first time. Great books have been written when it comes to the second or even third revisions. So I've actually dedicated 2 points to the reading and rereading of your material. So you want to read it over, point number 12. This is tough, but you want to do it. Read it over, point number 13. Read it over again. This starts to get grueling. It's slugging. You're so sick of this material by now, but your work is far from done. I told you that writing a book is a lot of work. Maybe this is why a lot of people don't publish, because you have to be willing to put a lot of work in. Remember how inspired you were at point number 2? You were going to be an author and you were going to get a book out there, but you don't want to put a garbage book out there. You want to put something that you've worked through a lot. So your points may be great, but it's only when you start working it through and rereading it again that you start to realize, well, actually I forgot a sentence here, or this thought doesn't quite work all that well. And so keep reading it and making adjustments accordingly. This is what great authors do. This is what all authors do. And this is what you need to do as you're doing your book. And at some point, as you're reading it over, you need to remember to make sure to look at your footnotes, because you probably went roughly through the actual citation process. Well, you want to make sure you have good uniform citation, that when you say it's an author, the author's name is spelled right, the book is italicized well, and there's punctuation that's consistent throughout the whole book. You got the publisher, where it was, and even the page number. So you got to go through that at some point, and usually it's somewhere in point 12 and 13. But by this point, you're about done with the content, and that's totally understandable. Now it's time to move to point number 14, and this is when you give it to somebody else. You're going to send it to a content editor. The content editor is the kind of person that takes a 30,000-foot approach to your book, right? They're going to look at the points, the main points that you're making, and then they're going to look through that and say, you know what, this is good, and this point doesn't work so well, this point could be stronger. They're not really nitpicking you on the grammar or anything like that. What they're doing is really just going at the big ideas and the flow of the book. Content editors are awesome. So the content editor will take a look at it and then come back to you with some changes. You make those changes and you feel like, hey, this is pretty good. However, there's probably some mistakes in there, because content editors don't necessarily go for grammar, spelling, punctuation, things like that. So you're going to send it to a grammar editor. These people usually drive us nuts because we're ideas people, right? We're in the realm of ideas, but grammar people live in the Well, they live in the world of grammar. I would never want to live in that world, but they do, and they have been a gift to me because they keep you from looking stupid once you've published. Have you ever been reading a book and found a spelling mistake in it, and you're like, oh man, what was that author thinking? Does he not know how to spell? Does she not know how to put a word together? Do they not know that a comma doesn't go there? You need a semicolon. Grammar people do, and grammar people love to catch this stuff. So print off another copy of your book, buy them a nice fancy red pen, and say, you just mark this thing up as much as you see fit. And so your grammar editor will then submit to you. Usually give people a deadline, right? That's one thing I've learned is these kind of people love deadlines. So just say, in 2 weeks, could you have this for me? And usually they'll be able to meet the deadline because they'll just do it at night. They'll stay up till late hours with doing grammar. And they'll come back to you, and you need to thank them. I mean, give them a Starbucks card, take them out, do something as a thank you because they have saved you from looking like a moron. So thank your grammar people, and then time to move on from the editing process. And now it's time to start thinking about formatting. So formatting, sometime in the process, you want to take your nice little manuscript that you have. It's probably in one page form, a regular standard page. But now you want to make it into a 6x9 format. I say 6x9 because that's kind of the standard book size. You can find a template for a 6x9 book on many places on the web. If you just look up 6x9 template, usually something is there in Pages or a Word doc. And then you copy and paste. You take your old manuscript, which is now looking great with no mistakes and great content, and you just copy and paste it and throw it into a 6x9 format. That's my preferred. I know that's preferred with many. And so it'll probably be in your standard font, maybe an Arial or a Helvetica or a Times New Roman. And you can actually customize it now to your own font, whatever you want it to look like. So Palatino looks good, Garamond looks good. There's many different options that you have depending on what you personally like. I mean, it is your book, and who's going to tell you otherwise? But then you also have these subheadings, and you want to make sure your subheadings are looking a little different than the regular font. And so, maybe bold them. Maybe you can even change the font to something a little more creative. But make sure your subheadings look good and they stick out, because people often will look at subheadings as a way to just kind of give their eyes a little bit of a break, or give their minds a little bit of a break, or you just tell them what the point is. So you can work through all those as you're going through your formatting in step number 17. All right, number 18. Okay, you want to get endorsements and maybe even a foreword. Forewords and endorsements are optional. You don't need them to publish a book, but they're helpful. Endorsements are just a sentence or two about your book or about who you are from somebody that you respect, somebody that respects you and trusts that this is something that they want to put their name to, and that other people will say, well, if they like it, then it must be a decent read. So find your famous friends, find somebody that you had a coffee with, a celebrity that you bumped into at some point in your life. Maybe your old buddy from high school has now gone on to be founder of Facebook or something like that. Whatever it is, if you know somebody that's influential that you would love to have their endorsement, that they'll say, I'll stand beside this person and their book, then you approach them with an email or in person, a call, whatever it takes to get them. One thing that you do is kind of make a list of all the people that you'd like to have, and then go after the most kind of, I don't want to say famous, but famous person, the most influential person that you know, and send something to them. Do whatever you can. Make a video if you can't see them in person, but go over, give them a copy of your manuscript. Say, can you read this? Or if you don't have time to read this, can you skim it? And say, I would love your endorsement. It would mean so much to me. And if you get them, then take their 2 sentences and then use that for the other people that are going to give you endorsements. I've done this several times. It wasn't my idea. It was a recommendation from a guy named Michael Hyatt in his book, Platform, Get Noticed in a Noisy World. And so Hyatt says, once you get that first person, then you could say, hey, this person endorsed my book and they said this. Would you consider saying that? And you just continue on to get endorsements. Maybe about 5 endorsements is plenty. And then if there's somebody that you think would write a 1 or 2 page foreword to your book that believes in you and knows what your subject matter is, and they're an expert as well, then you could get a foreword. But again, you can publish without endorsements or a foreword, and it's totally normal to do that. But it's a nice thing to have. All right, number 19, you need to have a cover. Now, 19 it comes with a cover, but you notice we haven't landed on a title yet. I don't know where to put the title thing. Some people start with the title in number 1. Some people don't have a title until they get to realizing they need to actually have a cover. And so titles are strange things, and I get them in the weirdest places. When I'm driving somewhere, when I'm in the shower, when I'm just talking to friends. Title for a book is a work in progress, and it's a mystery where these things come from. So they come from all different places, just like ideas. We don't really know where ideas come from, but we do know that they come. And so wherever you got your title from, it's time to put that into the cover. So when it comes to designing a cover, you can design it, but I don't really recommend doing that because it's just get someone else involved, because you need to have more eyes on it. If you have an idea of what the cover should look like, then go find an artistic friend, pay for their lunch or something, and work with them with the cover. But if you don't have any artistic friends, I recommend this one little secret on the web, and it's Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. And basically you have a bunch of creative people that are sitting around somewhere in internet world, and they're waiting for projects, and they don't charge very much money. So maybe $5 or $10 or maybe $20, or it can go up to $100 if you want the best cover designers. But what they're going to do is they're going to be interacting with you. You're going to tell them what you want. They're going to show you what they do, and then you can say, I like this. What they'll send you is a back cover, a front cover, and a spine in between, depending on the size of your book. And that's what you will then upload as your front and back cover. That'll be known as your cover art. Okay, so once you have that, maybe you've used a friend, maybe you use Fiverr. I really do recommend Fiverr because these guys know how to design book covers. They do it all the time. Now you're getting really close, right? You've got a finished manuscript, which is in a great format. It looks like a book on your computer. And now you've got a cover. Now you're ready to create. What I did was a CreateSpace account. CreateSpace is just one option of many, but it's the one that I use so often because I love print-on-demand technology. I love that you don't have to buy a whole bunch of books, put them in your basement, and then just hope that you sell them. You can just, if you want to buy 100 books, you buy 100 books. If you want to buy 50 books, you buy 50 books. If you want to buy 10, you buy 10. And it's the same price every single time. The good news is with CreateSpace is that they're actually a sister company of Amazon. And so when somebody buys your book on Amazon, you don't even have to see it. Amazon will just print it and ship it away for you, and you just get the royalties from it. So I've loved CreateSpace. I've enjoyed working with them, and for Canadians, it's actually getting better. They're improving their service to Canadians, which is exciting news for us Canadian authors. So when you open up a CreateSpace account, now you're ready to start a new title. And when you start a new title, they actually give you an ISBN number, so make sure you have space for that in your cover art. They'll give you a barcode and an ISBN. That's like your calling card for being an author. You got to have an ISBN number, and so they'll give you all that, and then you upload your 2 documents. You upload your cover art, and then you upload your manuscript, and then they'll take it, look at it, make sure it's all formatted well. They'll say, do you approve this? You can either say, I want you to send me a copy. You got to pay for it. They'll send you a copy, and then you can look and say, yep, this looks like a book that, this is everything that I would want. And so they send you that, you approve of it, and then you're ready to put it out there. Or you can just see an electronic version and then just approve that, and then it'll be live in just a few hours from there. So congratulations, your book is now done. Now you actually have to do the hard work of marketing it. Not a lot of people talk about that, but you, the author, have to be your best marketer. You have to be your chief marketer, the biggest promoter, the loudest voice when it comes to talking about your book. That may make you uncomfortable. That just comes with the territory. Even today, if you go through a big publisher, publishers don't do a ton of work anymore, at least not with much success of promoting books and authors. It's the authors themselves. It's the platform that they've built. It's the voice that they carry, the influence that they have that sell books. And so you have to be working on that. You've done all this work to write the book. Now it's time to start a new work, a new venture, and that is being a promoter, a marketer of your book. So let me give you a couple of tips. First thing is to have a blog of some sort. And I hope you've been blogging already because you're an author, you're a writer, and you love to write and communicate ideas. So I hope you have a blog somewhere. If you have an old blog stored away, resurrect it or start a new one. Purchase a domain name that's actually either true to your title or true to your name. But don't just have something .wordpress because it just looks silly. Just spend a little bit of money. It's like $20 a year at most, and you can have your own personal domain name, and it just makes you look a lot more professional. And then you could talk about your book. You could even copy and paste sections of your book, and just regularly getting people excited through your blog. Through 24, and that is to open up a Facebook author page. So you want to have a Facebook author page because it's different from your personal page. Now your personal page, you can talk about being an author and you could link people to that page, but these are your high school friends, these are your buddies, these are the people you go to church with or whatever, and they don't want to be seeing all of the stuff you're doing to promote your book. Once in a while they think it's cute, but they don't want to see it all the time. And here's the thing, you want to be promoting all the time, maybe even once a day, some little bit of content about your book or the subject, or just showing that you are an authority so that people say, I want to read more about what this person has to say, and so that you link them back to your blog, which links to your book, and that's how you sell books. So make sure you have an author page. It's free, it's worthwhile. You can even put money into advertising through ad campaigns on Facebook. I do it all the time. It's wonderful. I have lots of success that way, and you know how many people are actually looking at your stuff, which you don't get when you have only a personal profile page. So make sure you take the time to start an author page. It feels pretentious, but it's really not. This is the 21st century. This is just how things get done like that. Number 25. Look, we're on number 25. Like, your book is already created. It's out there. But now it's just time to continue to put yourself out there. I find the best place to sell books is through speaking. And so do whatever you can to maybe even have a speaking little tab on your webpage where you can show people that you enjoy speaking. It's something you like doing, and then selling books out the back. This is a great way because Christian bookstores aren't around much anymore. Amazon has so many titles out there and more growing every day. It's a noisy world. People aren't just going to find you through search engine optimization. They might, but they probably won't. The best way to find you, I hope, is in person, or at least through some kind of word of mouth, and that's getting the word about your book out there. So contact podcast hosts. They're always looking for new guests, and so an opportunity to share your story and talk about your book through podcasts is a growing medium that I think is an amazing opportunity. Whatever you can do, you got to put yourself out there. Your blog, your Facebook page, or any other kind of social media, and speaking, podcasts, whatever you can do. But congratulations, you made it to step 25. We're done. So I hope that this has helped you in some way. I wish I had somebody coaching me like this through it. If you want more information, or if you want to meet with me about it, I'm happy to do that either in coffee, in person, or on Skype. Just reach out and we'll make a way to make this happen, because we want to get those ideas out there. We want to get that book that you've been thinking about for so long actually in people's hands, so that that message that you've been given doesn't die with you. It gets out there and it lasts for a long time. So thanks so much for listening. I hope it's been helpful for you. It's been great for me just to think about the process. I love being an author, and I wouldn't go back if I had the chance. It's a lot of work, but it's always worth it. So go do the work, and I'm glad to be a part of it.